I issue this side. Kalyani or Vartika, can you please provide host controls to Viren as well to all the speakers on the call? Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Much.
Thank you. Now I'm all set.
I think we can go ahead, Vartika.
Sure. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is having a very good day. I am Dr. Vartika Jain, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our seventh webinar in the BRiK Academy series titled The Evolution of Pharma GCCs in India, New Horizons Ahead. Our today's session will dive into the evolution of GCCs in India, exploring their life cycles, diverse services, and the factors behind India's rise as a global hub for these centers. Let's start with today's agenda. We will begin with a brief introduction about who we are and our mission. This will be followed by a 45-minute session covering the GCC journey in India, including their evolution, the challenges that they are facing, and the unique opportunities that these present. We will conclude with an open Q&A session where you'll have the chance to ask about the internships, career preparations, and the skills needed to thrive in the industry. We are excited to delve into these new developments together. For those who are joining us today, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions. Alternatively, click on the three shapes, circle, square, or triangle at the bottom right, select Q&A, and post your question there. Please know that the Q&A session will be live throughout our session. Next slide, please. Today, we are joined by an incredible lineup of industry experts, each bringing a wealth of experience in different facets of the pharma and the GCC landscape. First up, we have Mihir Pujara, Senior Manager at Cipla, who has over 12 years of experience in strategic expansion across emerging markets and Europe. He's representing the Indian farmer, pricing, and market access. Then we have Narendra Kannojia, Director at Admit Next, with 15 plus years of experience in analytics and forecasting. Then we have Virendra Kumar, MD of Admit Next, with a vast experience of 15 years in global pharma business management. Last but surely not the least is Atul Banerjee, consultant and former leader at ZS Associates and Accenture, with 30 plus years in managing global research and consulting projects. He'll focus on commercial consulting and pharma forecasting. We are also joined by the professionals from companies like GSK, Novartis, IQVIA in the audience, along with the students from prestigious universities who are soon entering into the corporate world, marking the beginning of the professional journeys. Now, I'd like to invite each speaker to give a brief self-introduction to help the audience get acquainted with their backgrounds before we begin our discussions. Over to you guys. Next slide, please.
Okay. Sure. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I welcome all of you. So I am Mihir Pujara. I have around 12 years of pharmaceutical industry experience. Started my journey in 2012 after completing my MBA from NIPA with consulting, a company called Kynaps. Now it is merged into Syneos Health. After spending around 3.5 years in consulting, I joined Novartis GCC in Hyderabad as a part of their global market access and pricing team. And I continued that journey for almost around 7 years. Followed by that, I joined Indian Pharma. So started with Glenmark. I joined as a part of their global commercial excellence team and helped them set up the market access and pricing function as they were venturing into the specialty products. And followed by that, my last stint with Cipla, where I was part of their emerging market and Europe division, taking care of business strategy. So, and currently I'm working as a part of Admit Next, recently joined as an associate director and looking after HUR pricing and market access. Excited to be here and looking forward to interacting with all of you.
Thank you, Mihir. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Vartika.
for giving me an opportunity to introduce myself. Hello team, I'm Narendra Kannojia. I'm a B Pharmacy and MBA graduate from Naipur Mohali. It's been around 5-15 years where I have been working in commercial analytics area, majorly in forecasting, analytics, business development and licensing deal, and some due diligence project related to the merger and acquisition. So I have had a privilege of working with company like Novartis, Global Data, Takeda, AbbVie, Allergan during the whole tenure. Here in Adamet Next, I'm leading forecasting and analytics vertical, where we have a client who are in top 15 globally. We are on a daily basis, we are helping them in their decision making. So thank you very much for this opportunity and looking forward to discuss on GCC and what is the role of GCC in current market dynamic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Narendra. Next slide, please.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. Right now, I'm logging in from Kolhapur. I'm not in Hyderabad. I'll keep my introduction short. I'm a managing Adamet Next, but the major change, the major milestone in my career was Novartis, and I feel extremely blessed for joining this journey in very early, somewhere in 2013, when I joined the GCC of Novartis, and which actually led foundation of various other GCCs. I also being very thankful for the other panel members for joining this initiative and sharing their best practices, their learnings around global capability centers with the young generation, how they can make most of it, and how they can make their services, their support, their offerings more relevant to pharmaceutical companies. So thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to, and then feel free to ask your question whichever way it's possible. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Virendra. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Atul. Nice to meet you and welcome to this webinar. I'm actually based in London, but today I'm calling you from Tartu in Estonia, and it's really cold outside. It's so cold for me anyway. So I have an unconventional background. I studied aerospace engineering a long time ago. I got a scholarship with the Royal Air Force. But then I went into management consultancy with Accenture and ZS Associates, which is where I dove into the whole pharmaceutical world, did a few mergers and acquisitions, forecasting, cannibalization, and all of that stuff. I then worked in a few startups for about 5-7 years in different fields. Ended up running a health company, which was a global company, and was sold in 2000 whenever it was 3. And then since then, actually over 20 years now, I've been involved in this area that we're in today. So I've got over 20 years in competitive intelligence, competitive strategy within the pharmaceutical biotech world. I have also been teaching the last few years with London Business School. I did a course in the ethics of AI, because I think in this field of research, AI is playing a bigger part. And what I've been doing is building up a network of researchers around the world, from the US, across Europe, and with Viren and Adamet Next in India and across Asia. And that gives me really good exposure to people with local language capabilities, which is quite important, but also skills in different therapy areas. So a lot of the projects that I end up managing are global. And the last thing I'll say is, one of the other things that I do and have done, running and facilitating war games and scenario analysis workshops. So helping clients assess different pathways depending on what's happening in the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your kind introduction. Next slide, please. Today's session will focus on the impact of the GCCs in India. Global Capability Centers are the specialized business units established by multinational corporations to leverage local talent and infrastructure to support global operations, foster innovation, and deliver value. Now, let's hear from our panelists about how these elements come together to shape the overall strategies in pharma. Over to you, Virendra.
Thank you. I know it's a busy slide, and that's why I also shared it before the session. And if you have not gone through it, you perhaps want to take a screenshot and keep it with you. The whole purpose of sharing this slide is during this drug development process, starting from early stage and going toward the late stage. These slide highlight what are the key questions which a pharmaceutical company or their program management teams they are trying to answer. Uh, in a nutshell, a pharmaceutical company is trying to develop a meaningful, relevant drug for pharmaceutical market. And in order to do that, they are answering various questions. For example, who are the right patient, how the right formulation look like, how the right dosing look like. Do we have enough patients out there? And if there are enough patients, how we can find them, how we can reach them. And if we can reach them, then how we can ensure that we make our drug accessible to them. So it may sound very simple, but it's open up a huge complex world of questions which global pharmaceutical companies, their representatives, with the help of vendor and sometime in-house, they are trying to answer it. And then this journey continues for 10 to 12 years, and perhaps the nature of questions also change once the drug is out there in the market. Just a quick request to the team. I have a tendency to speak a lot, so please give me a heads up if I jump my time. Next slide, please. So we saw that there are complex questions and which require cross-team functional inputs. And not all of the team members within the company are expert in insights and analytics. So what we saw in early 2000, when I'm not sure if people remember, somewhere in 2000, what was the speed of internet, how slow it was, and we were going through an IT revolution where the West realized that we have some very good IT professionals who can actually help in scaling the IT services. So this transition started happening somewhere in early 2000. And we use the word like BPO era, where the business process, the set processes, they start coming in, and people start seeing a value in India. Later in 2006 and to 2010, what we saw is the computational power, the internet speed has gone up. And this is where we saw that the data movement has started, it become faster. So I remember I used to work with eValueServe, and they used to give us a VPN token. And the moment we used to enter that VPN token, we used to able to access all the IQVIA data in eValueServe. So that was also the time we have seen. And perhaps the internet speed at that time was 512 kbps. That's how we used to work. I think the maximum speed at that time was 2 Mbps. So in the initial wave, what we saw is, because now they were able to generate more data, they were needing people to analyze it, and they were also able to learn how to transition this data from west to east in India, and how they can start analyzing it. Somewhere in 2011, the internet speed also become even better. And this is where we saw that the evolution of complex problem solving in India. So now the team was not only doing the data analysis and data analysis both from the clinical perspective or the commercial perspective. Now this is where they realized that, okay, we can ask more strategic questions to these teams. And this was the time when Novartis was also putting up a foundation of their knowledge center in India. So, and they perhaps gave a go ahead to they started building the new office which we saw in Hyderabad. So they started putting it in place. And I'm not sure if people are aware. So usually in the setup stage, there were a lot of cynicism was there. People were not comfortable about putting up a knowledge center in India, and then your global team are actually looking towards India for their critical questions, which are not relevant to India, but they are relevant to US and European market. So in order to overcome this hesitation, what the team has done is they have given special incentives to their local teams, and they ask them that, okay, you can use this budget and you go and try to solve your problem with this knowledge center. And initially, and I don't have any formal confirmation there, but I was being told that the initial idea of setting up GCC was to bring a saving of over $2 billion from insights and analytics services in the period of 3 to 5 years. So, and now we can see in the era of 2016 to 20, this is where the knowledge center has grown significantly. And I think right now the overall strength is roughly around 12,000 people. There are so many people are working across various functions in the GCC. And this is where they have also started optimizing their services and then perhaps working with all the major markets, pharmaceutical markets. And now what we have seen is, because they have seen the success of Novartis in India, then also the success of Boehringer Ingelheim and Novo Nordisk. They primarily operate from Bangalore. We have AstraZeneca success story from Chennai. Now there are more companies are coming to India, and now they have basically bought an idea. Now they are not even testing. So now they have bought this idea that they can manage their insights and analytics services from India, and now everybody want to leverage it, and they want to do it at a rapid pace. So perhaps that's why we saw in 2024, be it Amgen, Sanofi, Takeda, Sandoz, they all are putting up their centers, in which the Hyderabad is coming out as a major winner, but there are still so many cities also getting benefit out of it. Next slide, please. So how GCCs are different? So here you can see there is an external vendor, this peach dot, and there is a pharmaceutical company. So typically, when a vendor works with a pharma company or any other company, usually vendors are kept at the circumference. They are outside the company. What does it mean is they are allowed to operate in their own culture, own boundaries to serve a pharmaceutical company. And then there's an exchange of information happening between vendor and pharma company. Usually these are weak ties. So what often happened is pharma company is sharing information on a need basis. They are not sharing everything with these vendors. And so vendor have to assume a lot because they have a very specific time with the pharmaceutical representatives, the key stakeholders, and they'll get very minimum information from inside to outside. In the GCC setup, what happened is now this vendor is now become part of this global company. So you might see that, okay, you know what, if it become a part of company, then why you are still showing it as a vendor? Because that's the way it is being set up. So it is a external agency with the people with the right skills. They have to manage their own budget. They have to show their own profitability. But now they are part of this big ecosystem. So they have to comply with the culture, ways of working of a big pharma company. Now they cannot have their own culture. But at the same time, after the setup, they have to manage their own profit and loss account. So they need to demonstrate their own value. And because now they are part of the system, then the best part is the flow of knowledge internally between these internal GC centers. It's more freely. So I also work with, being a vendor. I work with WNS Group. I work with Evaliso. But the kind of knowledge flow I have seen in Novartis Knowledge Center, it was exceptional. The kind of involvement you had with these global franchise heads, brand directors, that was extremely, extremely commendable. And that gives you a broader picture that whatever knowledge, insight you are generating, how a company going to use it in their execution plan. Next slide, please. So how big this universe can be. So what on the slide you can see is the typical example of, and this is not universal. So broadly, what we see is there are services which are more commercialization focused. Then there are services which are more scientific development focused. And then there are services which are more operation focused across the supply chain. And in best of the time, these numbers could be, we are talking about services 400 or 500 over. So here on the left-hand side in the commercial service, you can see there are 79 services are reported. And this is the segment where right now Adamant Next is operating. We are working in forecasting, insight, business analytics, CI, and eventually these all services are actually merging into integrated product strategy, which basically become a Bible of a brand, that how we are going to develop it, how we're going to position it, and how we're going to commercialize it. A similar uh, process also followed in scientific services, where you are developing a scientific strategy and creating a plan, a roadmap for a scientific narrative of your drug or a portfolio strategy. And then there are operation services where you can see that this is more drug distribution, manufacturing, legal, compliances, the other functions, which are basically, I would say, the hygiene services. So if you don't maintain this, your structure, your delivery framework might collapse. Next slide, please. Thank you. So over to you, Atul. Why India?
Thank you very much. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. I was smiling when Virendra was talking about internet access and VPN because I belong to the pre-internet era. And I have experience from that time of working with Indian companies in the 90s. So I can tell you that, my involvement with Indian companies has been for quite a few decades, and I've seen the evolution. Those days, one of my startups was actually partnering with Tata, TCS, I'm sure you know them, and using them to offer IT services to the UK and to clients across over to Europe. The number one reason why UK companies were partnering or using services from Indian IT firms is the first point is cost. And that's still the case. Western companies still consider services from Asia as lower cost, and it maximizes the profitability. But I think over time, as well as the cost being low, the talent and the skills and the expertise has gone up over time. And also, you guys in India have a lot of people. So you have a big talent pool to pick from. Now, having been born in India and having two separate lives of my cousin who was in India and I moved to the West, I know the competition is incredible over there. So the people who make it, like all of you guys, you're the top of the top. So, and I've seen that personally. So as well as the talent pool getting bigger, the infrastructure is improved. The internet for me and the communication telecoms infrastructure in India has always been a bit dodgy. That's a UK word, but that's also improved over time. Power, it's still an issue, right? Having consistent and reliable power, but I think the big companies have found ways to compensate for that in terms of having power supplies and servers as well, right? In terms of being able to store data, the technology being used. Your skills have expanded into machine learning, cloud computing, AI. All of this is leading to the reasons why companies are looking to India for these GCCs. So yeah, India is right now in a place where you have the technology, you have the people, and you have the infrastructure, which wasn't there, maybe even 10 years ago. Next slide. I visited Hyderabad a couple of times this year, and yes, my eyes were wide open. It was pretty impressive. So this is a map of where companies have moved to. I remember in the days where Pune, Bombay was the place, and then Pune, and then it moved to Bangalore. I think that's become overcrowded now. So Hyderabad is the current place where things are developing, and I think it's being done in a really good way. I think with Bengaluru, it was starting to feel like it was all very crowded, and the infrastructure, even the road infrastructure, wasn't there to support all the companies. But from what I've seen in Hyderabad, that's still growing, still developing, and is being done in the right way. So hopefully that will stay as a hub of these GCCs. I didn't know about Chennai actually, but also you see on this slide logos of all the companies in the pharmaceutical world that are present there. And it's a great opportunity for anyone looking to get into this field. I'm not going to spend too much time because actually I've got a rush to travel back to Tallinn to get my flight. So apologies in advance that I'm not going to stick around, but I'll just go to the last slide for me, which is a news cutting of, next slide, please. The news cutting showing, actually, you know what, why don't we pause here for 10 minutes while you can read that for yourself. I'm joking, I'll summarize it for you. The point of this slide is saying companies like Novo, AstraZeneca, BMS, they're all saying great things about the GCC wave in India. And it's not just providing one service or another or IT. Look at the range of services it's providing: marketing, digital marketing, health economics, analytics, the quality control, HR for the entire globe. And that's a big thing. That's a big quote from Novo Nordisk. Thanks for joining, and apologies in advance, but I'll hand over back to Narendra.
A very quick reminder to the audience, our Q&A chat is open throughout the session, so please feel free to ping in your questions to us. So Atul, we have a question for you, that how will the establishments of more GCCs in India is going to impact the demand for the consulting services in the pharma sector? We know that we have a lot of we have a lot of consulting vendor services. So how will that be affected if we have more and more GCCs coming in?
So it's already happening. There is greater demand for consulting services, which leads on to greater demand for people with those skills. So I think there's some talk later on about the movement from consulting companies into the GCCs and vice versa. Also, pros and cons of working in large companies versus small companies. But generally, what I'm seeing in India right now, and I've been there 3 times already this year, and a 4th time in December I'm going to Chennai, is that there's a real buzz in the country. Compared to what's happening in Europe and in the US recently, the mood is up, and there's a feeling that it's the place to be. So the opportunity is definitely there. So the more GCCs open up, the more consulting firms have the opportunity to work for them, and the more opportunities there are for people like the audience to get a track into them.
Sure.
Certainly.
And just to, sorry,
Go
Virendra, go ahead.
ahead, Mihir.
Just to add to what Atul has said, right, and the models are also changing. So example, the BMS has recently set its operation in Hyderabad. So they have collaborated with Pharma A's for forecasting and analytics services. Similarly, Roche has tie-ups with CS Associates for their advanced analytics thing, right? So, and you may find, right, in some of these organizations, so just to give an example, when I joined Novartis, in business analytics and forecasting function, more than 70% people came from WNS, right? So you will see a great sync of consulting companies and GCCs working together in variety of models that will emerge going forward.
Yep. In a nutshell, the pie of the insights, analytics, and these services is actually getting bigger. And right now, the way I'm seeing, we don't have enough people to support this expansion. So somebody need to start working at the ground to improve the quality of these professionals.
That's insightful. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, Mihir, please carry on with your slides.
Yeah. Sure. So I think the set is stage. Thank you, Viren and Atul, for setting the stage. Now, it is undoubtedly true that GCC is a proven model, and that is the why we are seeing the buzz. We are seeing a lot of companies establishing their GCCs. But the core question now comes to how to get into a GCC. What kind of career path should we take? What career journey would look like? What are the skills and competencies would be required, and what are some of the pros and cons, right? When if somebody wants to get into a GCC or already a part of GCC and would like to deep dive into how my future would look like, let's discuss about it. But before that, I have a few slides just to summarize, right, the key points that Viren and Atul have already highlighted. So I am not going to spend more time on this, but if you see the evolution of GCCs, right, so from transactional tasks to focusing on process excellence, where the focus is on medical services, regulatory, clinical, which are more documentation oriented, more process oriented. Then third and current phase, right? So if I give an example, Novartis and Novo Nordisk are kind of companies where I see they are at a third or the current phase, or we can say fourth phase, where there is a shift from just cost savings to value creation, and I would say value co-creation. So the team in India closely working with the global directors of respective functions to creating value. And companies are also now focusing through GCCs how they can leverage AI, leverage the digital innovation, leverage the digital boom. So Novartis has set up from past 1 year the AI Excellence Center. Similarly, BMS and Sanofi have also set up a dedicated wing, a dedicated pool of talent to just focus on leveraging AI and digital best practices, right? So different GCCs, I would say, are at a different stage of this life cycle, where a company like Amgen or Roche, I would say, is somewhere at second phase, where companies like Lilly, the Novo Nordisk and Novartis is at third and the current phase. Next slide, please. Yes. So now in next two slides, right, I'm going to talk about numbers and the services. Starting with, these are the pioneer Indian GCCs. In the next slide, we'll talk about some of the emerging Indian GCCs. So I already covered. So Novartis and Novo Nordisk set up their operations around 18 to 20 years back. Currently, crossing, as Viren highlighted, Novartis has crossed more than 10,000. Novo Nordisk has already more than 5,000 people. And they have full suite of services, including hygiene to medical to commercial, right, and data and digital. AstraZeneca and Lilly. So AstraZeneca is in Bengaluru and Chennai, and they are also around 8 to 10 years old, both Astra and Lilly. And as you can see, they are also growing very rapidly in terms of scaling up their services. As compared to Bayer and Pfizer, they are quite new, around 1 or 2 years old. In a very recent news, Pfizer has very recently opened, just 2 months back, a center in Mumbai focusing on data and digital, and especially data science. And they have set up a premises with around 250 people. So Bayer, again, in Hyderabad, quite extensive setup, and they are growing at a rapid pace, and their focus is mainly on the data science and analytics. Next slide, please. Now, these are some of the emerging Indian GCCs, right? And why I mentioned the point of pioneer versus emerging, I'll come later on what I'm trying to conclude out of this. So BMS, very recent setup. They started, I mean, early this year in Feb 2024, but hired very aggressively, around 1,500 people so far. Different operating model, lot of vacancies currently at a junior or mid-senior level, but they have kept the leadership very flat. Started with, again, R&D services, and now commercial is also gearing up with around 10 to 20% employees in the commercial space, mainly in the analytics. Roche is almost 2 years old, as I said, partnered with ZS Associates, but the long-term plan is, I would say, still not in place. There are around 500 associates focusing on analytics, but in terms of other services, apart from analytics, it's not very clear how they're gonna shape their GCC. Sanofi, I think we all must be aware, very active in terms of the marketing on LinkedIn, as they have almost invested around 400 million USD in setting up the GCC. Length and breadth of services started with medical R&D, and now 30 to 40% commercial services are also there in terms of commercial analytics, and they have very recently started full-fledged market access and pricing services as well. Merck, MSD, Amgen, we all have heard, right? Came to Hyderabad, it was in news. They are also very actively hiring. And again, it will go through the entire life cycle as we talk about. Now, the point, and very important point I would like to make here is, no doubt everybody's career journey is individual, but if I have to generalize to some extent, I would personally recommend or feel that those people who have joined GCCs at an early stage, help the GCC in setting up their processes and operation, structure the ambiguity, right, have always get a better chance to make a long-lasting and more fruitful career within the GCC setup. Because once the setup is there, more people have joined, right? The machine has already become very big. Sometimes, right, I feel that structuring a long-term career journey, right, becomes difficult. If I give an example, I joined Novartis in 2015. I have a very good friend who joined Novartis in 2012, straight out of campus. Right now, he's still associated with Novartis. And when he joined, the team size was almost around 10 people, but he was successfully able to then navigate into different departments, different functions, was able to project his career like a comprehensive, right, commercial professional. And he's still associated with Novartis. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are focusing on joining a GCC, right, my recommendation is to focus on Amgen, Sanofi, MSD, BMS, right, who are at an early stage, right, so that you can be a part of their journey, help them set up a lot of things, and then grow eventually. Next slide, please.
A very quick reminder.
So I won't spend a lot of time. It's a very busy slide, but I would like to emphasize on the length and breadth of services that GCC offered. You can see the magnanimous scale of services that GCC is offering, and Virendra has covered, I mean, the gist of it. But it is also very important, right, to get into a GCC to project your expertise in a right manner. Just to give an example, right, if you are someone that having experience into analytics, a very detailed experience into CI, right, you become a great fit, right, for GCC to understand and categorize your experience, as compared to someone who has experience in, I mean, few areas, right? Because the hiring process, the structure of GCC, so each of these department would have a dedicated hiring team, dedicated recruitment team, right? And it becomes much more easier if you are focused on what skills and strength you are bringing based on your past experience, and where you want to land or where you want to see yourself. Having
Yeah.
said that, it is also very important for GCCs, right, to integrate the insights that is coming out, and that's what Viren is focusing upon. So initially, the focus was on having competitive intelligence, analytics, patient access, market access, and pricing as a separate departments. But eventually, now GCCs have realized that the actual value would come when the insights are integrated, and then it gave birth to a function called integrated insights in Novartis, where the data or the analysis is being
Thanks,
collated from
Mihir. We need to rush a little bit.
and
We are running
Viren, you're
behind
saying
time.
something?
No, I'm saying we are running behind. So it would be great if
Yeah.
you can just
You know,
continue.
Viren, you're on mute if you're saying something.
So I can hear him, but for the broader audience, Mihir, thanks a lot for walking us through how the GCCs have transitioned from
Okay,
hygiene services towards the complex
go
services.
on.
In the interest of
I hope you're
time,
able to hear me. Vartika, can you confirm?
Yes, we can hear you, Mihir. All we are saying is that
I
we are
think
running
Mihir
early.
unable to hear us.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not able to hear.
Okay, yes, it seems like that.
Let's move on the slide and Narendra.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide, Vartika.
Yeah.
Yes, so thank you very much, Vartika. Can you please move
Let me
the last slide?
rejoin.
Back. One more slide. Back. The starting one. No, not forward. Back. Yes. So GCC. No.
Kalyani, just one slide back, please.
Slide 24.
Slide 24. Yes. Sorry. So okay. Thank you very much for everyone for listening us and being with us. Now coming to the analytics part, here I'm going to touch few points. So here we have discussed how GCC is involving in India and what was the role of GCC in pharma company. Here I'm
Hello.
going to touch 3 points majorly. So first is that if you are working in a particular vertical, let's say analytics, then how you can prepare yourself to get an opportunity working in GCC. And if you got opportunity working in GCC, how you can build your career from moving from one vertical to other. That is the second point. And in third point, I will also try to highlight how you can make your career plan, a journey to achieve an opportunity to working in leadership team, right? Okay, next slide, please. Yes, so if in this particular slide, I'm trying to highlight that, let's say if you are working in analytics or forecasting, so how it is evolving in GCC. Earlier, as Viren has highlighted that the overall pie of GCC actually evolving, right? Initially, GCC was considered as a back office, but now actually it is participating in the strategic decision making of company itself, right? And analytics earlier or forecasting, CI, these were the few verticals which actually have team in GCC, but now R&D team, manufacturing, medical writing, all these teams are actually coming into the GCC and the overall pie is actually growing, right? So we have ample of opportunity. Now coming to the analytics part in a layman, if I will say that analytics is a method by which you try to get answer for business question. And this business question comes from a different vertical, different business or operations, right? So let's assume that example, if any sales manager or sales and marketing team want to know that which particular city generating higher sales, which particular hospital generating higher sales, right? Who is the right target for the prescription? So what you can do that you have ample of data, you can analyze it and you can put it forward to the leadership team or decision maker. But currently, as a advanced technology, here we have a revolution of IT. Here you can see that cloud-based analytics, big data, AI, they are coming into the GCC field, right? If you are tech savvy or have an interest in technology, you can learn this thing, right? And you can evolve and grow yourself in the advanced analytics vertical. Now, coming to the forecasting part, initially we have been working only, forecasting for sales and demand, but right now what we are also doing, we have a separate team for the epidemic modeling, which is nothing but you can see that in COVID-19 we don't have any idea, we didn't have any idea about what would be the potential market for this COVID, or how many patient or population get infected from COVID-19. So there was some statistical modeling which you can say government body has prepared and estimated that this would be the most probable scenarios of population size, right? So there are ample of opportunity, you can learn and grow. Next slide, please, Vartika. So in this slide here, I'm trying to highlight that what is the intersect of analytics with other verticals. So trying to give some idea about the R&D and manufacturing, market access, marketing and sales and strategy planning. But this is not the whole universe. There are ample of vertical you will get, in GCC. But just take an example. Let's say if you are doing analytics in R&D team, right? So you have to find out who is the right supplier based on the data, right? With historical data, who will be the right CROs or right service provider based on their historical supply of API, or providing right SCPs, or deciding which particular hospital would be the best one for the clinical trials, right? So you're doing actually analytics, but parallelly, because you're working in an R&D segment, so you can build your career in CROs as well, right? So this is how you actually doing one thing and getting experience in a particular niche area and build your career based on your choice. Likewise, if I will give an example about the marketing and sales, right? So there are, let's say, you are working in a project related to the marketing and sales. So estimating which particular top 5 market of countries are who are actually generating higher potential sales. So what you can do that right now, you can do the data analysis in Excel. You can see that these, based on the number, these are the top 5, right? But now let's assume that if you want to learn Power BI, which is quite new one or innovative tool, what it will do that, if you have understanding about the Power BI tool, you can plug all those number into that, and in global map itself, it will actually highlight the country map as a reflector to identify quickly these are the top 5 countries who are actually generating higher sales, right? So this is how actually analytics playing role, integrating with other verticals and actually influencing in decision making, right? So this is a slide. This is the slide which actually I'm trying to highlight that analytics is not the one part. You are doing analysis, but parallelly it is dependent on the project, which project you are doing, and you are getting experience and then preparing yourself for the next role, right? So you can make a plan in a proper way. Good. So next slide, please, Vartika. Yes. Now coming in a more detailed way. Here you can see that, let's say if you are working in CI, right, how it is integrating with analytics. You have a plethora of information about the patient. You have a clinical trial data. You have a cost efficiency analysis as well, right? But what would be the right way to portray the story in front of the leadership team who doesn't have time, right? If you are able to, if we are able to provide analytics in a schematic diagram, in a fancy chart, or you can say, or in a advanced tool like Power Apps, Power BI, or any Tableau tool, right? So what it will do, it will highlight only those products which are cost efficiency, whether in a same class or not. They can monitor the real-time, strategy, what other companies are doing, where they are, whether they are on the launch stage or they have already launched, or they are making a strategy for the promotion. You can do that. Like SFE, Salesforce effectiveness. So let's assume that actually you are trying to communicate your product at SCP level, but parallelly what you are also doing, you are utilizing the tools, right, which is available in a digital mode, right? You can communicate the brand in that way, right? Yeah, Virendra, I'm stopping here. You have any question?
No, I just flagging that, we are just again running short, so
Okay.
please try to
Good.
conclude.
Yeah. So in nutshell, if I will say that analytics is involved with the different verticals. Here you can see that few example: forecasting, pricing, SFE, and CI. But parallelly, you can make a plan which interests you, and based on that, you can make a plan for your next role, from SFE to forecasting or pricing analysis, because these are quite relevant based on the quantitative analysis. You can do that, and then you can make a bigger role, let's say decision making, insights role, or the brand director role. Right. That's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Narendra. Can we move ahead? I think we just have a couple of more slides left. Yes.
So again, I will not spend much of time. These are some key questions which, as a team, you try to answer and end up using the cross-team interaction, cross-team support to answer those. So if you want to read it further, take a screenshot, and then you can review it and you can ask question, in the Q&A session. Next slide, please. What you can expect next, as I also highlighted, now these GCCs are in the setup stage. Eventually, they will form setup, their structure. Right now, they are also figuring out how the good strategy look like, how the success look like. So this is the right time to get along with these GCCs, and what you will see in the coming year when they start moving toward maturity. This is where we can anticipate some sort of layoffs, which is primarily on the high-paying segment, the services which are or the roles which are extremely expensive. So that may happen, but at the same time, that's true with any business. So every business, it moves from setup to scale to standardize and toward maturity. But this is a fantastic time to be in this GCC universe, work along with them, learn with them, be a part of them, and most important, understand their business priorities, and it can open up a complete new world of opportunities for you. With that, I hand it over to Vartika, and let's see what specific questions we have.
A very big thank you to all our panelists. The insights that you guys have shared today have highlighted how GCCs are shaping up a new era in the pharmaceutical world. I hope these discussions inspire many of us to explore this exciting field further in our careers. Now, next slide, please. We'd like to open the floor for Q&A. Please feel free to raise your hands or type your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A section. We will try to address as many questions as possible. We had some questions that were sent to us by the audience already. Let's take some of those questions one by one while we wait for the questions in the chat box.
And Vartika, you can hear me now.
Yes, Mihir, we can hear you. And actually, Mihir, the next question is something that was directed at you. It is one of the questions that I think which was supposed to be on your slide, I think. So the question, Mihir, for you is that how can students prepare themselves for a career in a pharma GCC from campus placements? What skill sets do you think are something that are most in the demand and the students should be preparing for them when they're sitting for the interviews in the campus?
Sure. If you can quickly go to my skill slide while I'm giving that answer. And sorry for the network issues. Sometimes it's like a career journey. You are blowing your trumpet, but nobody is able to listen what you are saying. So that happens in career as well. Now, in terms of skill set, very relevant question. Let's understand, first of all, how GCCs, what is in which model they are hiring. So there are three ways the GCCs are hiring. So first, they have tie-ups with academia. So they are taking the campus recruits. The second is the recruitment drives that they are doing. So we have seen with Novartis, Lilly, they are going to a specific city and have the recruitment drives and call people who have already qualified a telephonic interaction. telephonic conversation with them earlier. And the third mode is definitely a lateral hiring or hiring through a referral. Having said that, I want to specifically emphasize and you be mindful about, it's actually difficult if you are just a fresher with no experience and then you don't have a campus tie-up to get into these GCCs, right? Because there is no a structured way. They always hire in a structured manner. So these are the three channels I talk about. Now let's focus on the skills as you asked through. So first is the functional part of it, right? It is not applicable for someone straight out of college. There they see the basic aptitude, the basic attitude, and they have their structured campus hiring process. But if you are someone who has worked in a consulting domain or in any other organization, have got an experience, example into analytics, forecasting, CI, right? Then you are eligible to get into a GCC at a junior level, which is like associate analyst, analyst to senior analyst, and if more than 5 years of experience at a managerial level as well. So first of all, functional expertise, which is very much needed. Second is your behavioral, non-functional and behavioral competencies, which I would say very important would be adaptability, right? Because in GCC, it's a cross-functional working, as Virendra highlighted. It's very important to have that adaptability to the entire situation. Team playing, ability, right? Working with cross-functional teams, with brand directors is required. You to be a team player. Communication skills are very important as you are part of, as you are dealing with multiple stakeholders from different countries, different markets, very senior people as well. And last but not the least, the cultural sensitivity, right? As you are dealing with many countries, with all different cultures, right? So having that emotional quotient as well as cultural sensitivity is very, very important.
Thank you so much, Mihir. Thank you. Thank you. I think that helped. Another question that we have from Rohit in the chat box is, how is machine learning and data science relevant to CI?
And just before we take up that question, sorry to interrupt you, Vartika.
Yeah.
Dipesh, I can see your hand raised. I would please request the audience. There is a button with 3 shapes, circle, square, and triangle at the bottom right corner of the screen. Please go there, go to the Q&A and post your question there. We will take up the questions from the chat box. Thank you so much.
Yep. Narendra, would you want to take up that question? How is machine learning and data science relevant to CI?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Artika. So now here is the amalgamation of machine learning and data analytics with CI. So based on the data point, let's say what you have collected for the CI perspective. If I will give you an example, let's assume that there was a clear designing in the terms of the patient's group, right? So you can identify that all those failure, let's assume that there are few molecules which already failed in the same class. Now you are working on a similar, same class, but for the different product. So here you have to understand all those data points, and here data learning can play a crucial role to identify which particular patient group will be right for the trials perspective, right? You can do the analysis, CI things, and you can directly go and analyze and suggest that this is the right designing. There were some few caveats happening in past based on the designing format perspective, right? And you can highlight that if we will change it, right, the patient segment, let's say whether not taking the only severe patients, but we can also include low risk or intermediate risk patients as well. So might be possible we will have a different result from the clinical trial perspective outcome, right? So you do all this data collation part in CI perspective, take a learning from history and generate the result, right? So this is how data machine learning and data integration can play in role in CI.
Yep. I think Virendra, you have something to add on.
Well, I'll just add, let's keep it very simple. If there is a data, you have information in hand, machine is a tool to analyze and predict trends. Okay, it's this is the crux of it. So if you have data, use machine to find trend because it can do it better than human.
Okay, thank you. So another question that we have from Satwik in the chat box is, as someone who has worked for the past 4 years in clinical project management abroad after my master's, what would be your suggestion for transitioning into market access or a consulting role in India?
Sure. It's good. Yeah, I'll take it up.
Yes, Mihir,
Yeah,
please.
it's a good question. So if I just brief you the structure of market access and pricing in these GCCs. So two established GCCs, the Novartis and Sanofi, even Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have this structure. So the global market access and pricing is structured in a way they have HEOR services, which is health economics and outcomes research, right? They work on putting together systematic literature reviews and targeted literature reviews. Then they have economic modeling team, a market access team, and a pricing team. Considering your background in clinical project management, I think HEOR is a space, right, where you would be able to add value, which comes under overarching market access and pricing. So you can definitely apply in a HEOR sort of a role. And once you have joined that team, you would also have an opportunity to work alongside market access and pricing if you really want to be a comprehensive market access professional.
Another important thing is because you are transitioning from one department to another department, you also need to understand once you are not a fresher, the company want to pay for your expertise, not for your training. So you need to proactively understand what are the skills required, do your due diligence, and prepare yourself where your previous experience complement what you are doing and what you are started, new service for which. So that's the way you can also charge premium for your experience versus, sounding naive.
Yep. Thank you, Viren. One another question that we have, again, it is something related to the skills only. That what are the skill sets that are required to get absorbed into a pharma GCC for somebody who's been working from on the vendor side for a long time?
So in general, GCCs are very specialized when it comes to, those verticals. So from a vendor side, make sure in which area you are good at. So if you're good in CI, if you're good in forecasting, you're good in analytics or the other functions. So make sure you are really good at it because GCC's HR team, the function team, they don't want to experiment. They don't have a lot of scope to experiment or try. They want to hire you. They want to put you in front of those stakeholders in US and Europe. So they can't experiment it. And try to operate within that expertise. So this is what will ensure that you are hireable. Another most important thing is, fortunately, unfortunately, English is going to be your, the language of communication until unless some other, GCC is coming and then they are asking you speak Chinese or Spanish or Italian or French. Possible. But whatever language you are picking, become good at it. Become good in your communication, because it doesn't matter whether you are an expert in something or not, but if you can't communicate, you are actually wasting your talent, especially in the virtual setup.
That is so true. I absolutely agree. I think this is a question that I'd like to direct to Naren. We have a question that says that nowadays AI/ML are a buzz. So what are the tools that GCCs are going to adopt? How can senior level or mid level employees can learn and grow in this area?
Yeah, good point. So I will give you an example about the current setup, what we are doing in Adamat Next. I think that will be the right approach. So we have what we have been doing from last 10 years. We have been doing the same thing, but now we are adding on the top of it advanced version of tools, right? Even I think most of the people have heard about the chat GPT, right? Along with that, we have some other advanced tool and AI tool as well, right? So what actually they are doing that, they are having capacity to deal with millions of data points, right? And in a very quick span of time. So that is the KPI of using AI tool to understand very long data points, in-depth data points, right? And they are able to create multiple scenarios based on the time, situations, difficulties, and can provide a 360-degree perspective of any particular event, right? So this is how actually the whole system is evolving and going to utilize this AI tool to generate insights based on the data-driven insights, right? And utilize that in the decision making in a very quick span of time, because it is also providing a great benefit in terms of the visualization as well. Sometime going through plethora of data, you have to identify whether 10 is greater than 12 or 8 is greater than 10, right? But if you will have a clear visualization, you can quickly identify that this is the right target for us. I hope I have given answer to your question.
Yes, thank you, Narendra. We have a question from Kadyam. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. They say that they have experience in R&D and IP department, API and pharma. What is their career role in the GCC?
So if you want to stick in the same area, then there are roles related to intellectual property and the legal services. You can apply in those departments.
Okay. Okay. And the other question that we have from Udit is, do these specialized hubs in the form of GCCs increase the speed of the process of drug development and clinical trials? Can they contribute to the new future concepts in pharma like genomics or precision medicine?
The answer is yes, once they mature, because when these cross-functional departments are together, and in general, and as I said, GCCs are part of organization, but they also behave like vendor, so they do work faster. And in India, the use of technology is much higher. In general, we have seen these teams working at a faster pace in comparison to our Western counterparts. So it definitely the aim is definitely to speed up the process. Whether it's impactful or not, we need to wait and watch. Certainly, it was impactful. That's why Novartis continued with it.
In addition, yeah, I would like to say those who want to apply or those who are relevant into formulation development or lab related work. So example, Novartis, they have a separate setup in Genome Valley, right, where they have these kind of roles. Even AstraZeneca, a lot of other companies have their R&D centers here, right? So GCC as such, right, is more focused on services which are mostly process oriented, documentation, analytics. And if you are somebody who has work, who is MPharm and PhD and have a want to make their career into lab side of things, right? Some of the companies do have a separate facilities and they operate separately to the GCC model.
Yeah. Right. So next question we have from Dipesh. He says that I have about 7 years of experience having worked in functions like forecasting, claims analytics, HCP segmentation, and recently supporting medical field analytics. So for the leadership roles in GCC or pharma vendor side, does breadth of functional experience matter?
Yes, it does. So there are roles like integrated insights, which are in general cross-functional, and they are contributing in the brand strategy and the portfolio strategy. So this is where you need to have a good understanding of individual verticals, how they plays a role, and how they are integrating into brand planning or brand strategy. Go for those. This might, and then perhaps understand what are the expectations from these cross-functional roles. There are limited opportunities in this area, but certainly if you get in, they can leverage your cross-functional experience.
Yep. Thank you, Virendra. So I think there's one very interesting question that seems to be kind of a query for many in the industry. It's a question from Tej Prakash. GCCs like Novartis, etc., have their own teams for a particular sort of work, for strategy and analysis. So why would they also touch base with consulting firms for the same work?
Let me take this question. I think, yeah, it is quite interesting. We have been saying that. It's a good question, Tej. So let's say if you are working in GCC setup in one vertical, you can take an example, whether it is CI forecasting or pricing. I will take example of forecasting, right? So you are working directly with directors who is sitting in Basel or US, right? He has his goal, right, or KPI, right? He has to deal with directly with CEO, and he has some expectation, right? So what he will do, he will try to influence your numbers, right, by here or there, right? So what will happen? CEO will definitely not have a unbiased information at his hand or her hand, right? So this will be a kind of biased information because you are actually working in a same setup. You will have some reporting. You have to report your manager has to report some other upper level like this. So this is the things usually happen in GCC. So why they do, they try to have an unbiased opinion what actually the situation is. And who will do that? Where you won't have a full control, 100% control. And there is an opportunity for vendor like us, right? We can learn, we can imbibe all those learning what we have learned during the last 20 or 40 years, right? What we can show that without any unbiasedness, biasness, we can portray the right information in front of the leadership team.
There is
I hope.
another reason. The thing is, in an ideal world, you want to have all the experts in house to speed up your process. But that's an happen in ideal world. It's not realistic. You can't have all the talent in house. Then even if you have all the talent in house, you may have a bureaucracy. You may have a slowness in the system. That will also attract very significant cost. So it is not ideal, it is not logical, it is not advisable. You have all the roles in-house. So if you want to move things faster, go with vendors, not the in-house team. Okay. Innovation move faster on the vendor side versus internally. So there are so many reasons from a business point of view, which keeps the vendors relevant. So because we are also vendor, I'm not worried about our future. I know that we are agile, we are relevant, and we are serving value to our customers.
Thank you both. I think that would answer a lot of queries of a lot of people here, because I think this was one very, very common doubt that people have in their minds when they are choosing between working for a GCC or a vendor. Okay, so next question we have from Meenal. A very simple question: that how to be an excellent forecaster?
You have to be very accurate in terms of numbers, and you should love numbers, right? So forecasting is nothing but 100%, I will say, but definitely 95% is totally dependent on the quantitative side, right? You should be very pro in terms of using the Excel software. Excel is not a small software, I will say. Most of the people have a confusion that they know few formulas or few tricks in Excel, then they are expert. No, it is not. So you have to be quite intuitive as well in terms of 360-degree perspective thinking, right? Approach. So all this quality actually required in forecasting. Yeah, so I will pause here. Over to you, Virendra. You want to add something?
I have a different perspective. Some people see forecasting as a number exercise. No, it is not a number exercise. It's a storytelling exercise. So can you tell a story, and can you also defend that story with a convincing assumptions? If you can do that, then you are a good forecaster. If you can't do that, I'm sorry, people can't go into the model and take answers for the assumptions. Okay, you are predicting future, and anyone can be wrong with the future prediction.
Interesting.
Good point.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I think people have again a lot of questions about competencies and learning. So, Amir, I'd like to direct this question to you: that how do GCC support the career development and continuous learning of their employees? We see that for the consulting firms or the vendors, you don't have to look for opportunities; they are usually presented to you. How does that happen for GCC?
Yeah, so one thing I want to highlight, right? GCC is a place where you have a lot of resources. If you can go to next slide, right? Let's cover some of the pros and cons. Yeah, so at the time of Novartis, I feel that there are a lot of databases, lot of subscriptions, lot of in-house resources, lot of trainings that are happening. So there is always an opportunity, right? At especially if you are joining at a junior or mid-senior level, to utilize those resources to upskill yourself. Second thing, I have seen Novartis had tie-up with ISBs, and Novartis used to encourage associates to take up certification courses. During COVID time, they were providing Coursera free subscription to you and family members. So those kind of upskilling initiatives, right, are always there in all the GCs, because definitely they have big budget for training and learning. So that is one thing, right? But the second thing, which is also very important to be mindful about, that once you are joining a GCC, the department that you have joined, right? So you can assume small islands, right? And each island or each function is behaving like an organization itself, right? So there are their own sort of bureaucracy, their own set of challenges. There are a lot of team members you find at a mid senior level, so sometimes it becomes slowness, right, in terms of projecting the career journeys. Or maybe if you are somebody who is very ambitious about incentives and performance, you might find that no, things are at an average level. Also, it is very important that at what stage you are joining a particular function, right? So I hope I'm able to answer your question, but others can contribute.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, we'll take 2-3 questions more. So the next question that we have is, what are the core competencies required for brand insights and CI forecasting platforms, and what are the platforms to learn them?
I can talk from a brand insight point of view. As Mihir highlighted, one of the best resource, what I saw, it was actually inside Novartis. So they had this PeopleSoft platform, and we learned about brand building Novartis ways. We learned about integrated product strategy and the best practices around how to go to market strategy, how to design a go to market strategy for a brand. These are the core services which basically, or the core activities which funds the pharmaceutical company. Okay, so if you are good at product development and also extremely good at launching, you are making good revenue, you are making good money, and that money eventually reflect into, it moves downward. So you can reward your people better. You can, you can fund your innovation. You can fund your R&D. So for the integrated insights, understanding the contribution of individual function, how you can make your products relevant to the various key stakeholders, that's the key role of insight director or insight manager. And they are one who are actually giving these insights to their brand directors so that they can make decisions that what to set priorities for individual activities, that okay, this is what I need to do for my brand. Similarly, it goes down to forecasters and CI and the analytics directors, so that they provide insight which feed upward. And I think for a specific function, Mihir and Narendra can add.
Yeah. So in regards to the forecasting part, which particular platform will be the best one. So what I have learned during 2010, JDS has created one platform, right, which we were using that, but yeah, it was not the universal platform which was actually accepted by everyone. Likewise, even Novartis has created in-house platform, but during the whole experience, from all experience, what I can say that Excel is the best platform which you can learn. Why there is a requirement of Excel? Because actually it will give you an opportunity to create a very peculiar, right, very difficult uh, forecast flow, right? Sometime if you will have a platform, so it is a very uh, designed one, you cannot play with different logic. Now the challenge is that in pharmaceutical industry, there will be some disease which is acute, there will be some diseases which are chronic, but there are some other diseases which have a totally different patient journey. So forecasting is nothing but the actually plotting the whole patient journey in terms of the numbers perspective, in terms of the flow, how they are moving from one stage to other, even in the whole treatment journey part, right? So that is the challenge which I have seen that, and still, in most of the company, Excel is the best platform which actually they are using for the forecasting modeling.
For market access, patient access quickly, if you want to learn or upskill yourself, ISPOR is a very good website. There are a lot of free resources, white papers, articles. On LinkedIn, you can follow Neil Grubert, right? He is organization into himself, right? And there are a lot of good articles he keeps on posting. Udemy and Coursera both has a lot of courses on HEOR and how to do those systematic reviews and economic modeling. So you can also take up these courses. Thank you.
From a CI point of view, we are doing a lot of these webinars. We do share a lot of content on LinkedIn, and we are also planning to launch a specialized course in CI so that people can understand that how strategic CI is being done and how they can get better with it. So for that, you need to wait.
And for CI, you can follow Viren, and Viren keeps on posting a lot of things, lot of valuable resources. So if you're following Viren, I don't think you need to answer this question ever again, especially in CI.
Thank you. Thank you, all three of you. It has been very, very helpful knowing all these platforms that people can use to upskill themselves. Another question that we have is from Madhvi Soni. She asks that GCCs plays a role beyond cost saving, such as in digital transformation. Recently, Pfizer has launched a platform, Pfizer for All. Are these decisions also taken by the GCCs?
So, I don't think these decisions are taken at GCC. So GCCs actually act like a catalyst, and we are not at the stage where the decision making is happening. They certainly accelerate the decision making process, and whether you want to go ahead or you don't want to go ahead. I hope in the near term, maybe that decision making also come to GCCs, but in my experience, it is not. Go ahead, Mihir.
No, fine. Nothing to add. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So in the interest of time, we have our last question, which is, what are the key challenges in talent acquisition and retention for the consulting firms in a market with growing GCC presence? And how can the vendors or the consulting firms can address these hiring challenges?
So in general, not all people are same. So there are people who are having growth mindset. There are people who are fixed mindset. There are different personalities. Okay. So those who want more stable, static, consistent, and safe environment, I think GCCs are for them. You go there, it is, the life is not fast paced. It is provide a lot of security, consistency to your career. But if you are somebody who like more dynamic nature of work, you are more open, you are more agile, and you want a more fast-paced life, faster growth. I think this is where you want to look toward vendors. Uh, they are they are able to implement a impact model. So where the people who are creating more impact, they are being picked and they are being offered more opportunities. Unfortunately, that is not possible in a GCC or a bureaucratic structure. That's not easy. They can't do it because they certainly become the more. So there is a saying that once the structure become big, it is very difficult to provide equal opportunities for everybody. It become difficult.
Yeah. In addition to that, I would like to say that if you are someone who is planning to join a GCC, look for the new entrants or organizations who are setting up things, right, rather than a team who is already 400 or 500 people, right? Because where there you would definitely you can expect a stability, but you can definitely have to compromise a bit on the growth aspects.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. A very, very big thank you to our panelists. The insights and yeah. Yes,
Vartika,
please.
I think we also have our ex-colleague Loco John here. If we can unmute him and perhaps a quick take some words from him, that would be fantastic. We have a different perspective.
Sure. Um, yes, I'm just.
And maybe
Um,
Kalyani, if somebody can unmute him and
yeah.
if he can.
Could you please say the name again, Viren?
John, Loco John.
Okay. Um,
I think,
he's.
is he still there? I think he left the
I,
meeting.
He has
he,
left the meeting.
he's left the
Okay,
meeting.
no problem.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I was thanking all of you. I just wanted to mention that the insights that you people have shared today, along with this very, very insightful Q&A session, has highlighted how GCCs are shaping a new era in the pharmaceutical industry. I hope these discussions inspire many of us to explore this exciting field further in our careers. So before we conclude, I'd like to introduce our next learning opportunity. Next slide, please. The upcoming Competitive Intelligence course. Launching in early 2025, this program is designed for students entering the industry along with the professionals aiming to deepen their skills in pharma CI. Participants will have the flexibility to enroll in the complete course or the individual modules. This training will include practical dummy projects to prepare you for the real-world scenarios and enhance your career in pharmacy. For more updates, please follow the BRiK Academy on LinkedIn and Instagram. In the closing, I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the panel and to all the participants for being a part of today's session. Our discussion highlighted India's growing influence in the pharma GCC landscape, especially in delivering specialized, high-value services beyond the traditional IT. India, I think, is truly setting a new global standard for innovation and growth in this domain. We look forward to seeing all of you in the future sessions. Thank you once again. Thank you for sparing time on a Saturday, and we hope that you have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, panel, and thank you, the organizing team. Thank you, Vartika. Fantastic work. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.